Welcome to MFQ Football. Today we're going to talk about building culture within your football team. But before we move on, please subscribe to this channel and pass it along to anybody that you know or any football coaches that you know that might be interested or anybody that just wants to learn about football in general. We appreciate your support for the channel. And again, please subscribe. Today, we're going to talk about how to build a culture in your football team. And the number one thing that you have to understand is that there are so many different personalities. There are so many different individual type of athletes within the program. So you have to create a culture that people want to buy in. Number one, you need to set the expectations of the program from day one. I coach youth football, usually 11 to 15-year-old kids, and we have a golden rule. Don't do to others what you don't want done to you. So if you don't want somebody to call you stupid, then you don't call somebody else on the team stupid. If you don't want to be bullied, then don't bully anybody else. And we also don't have any room for bullying. The expectation is that you're bullying, it'll be dealt with immediately with you and your parents, and you may not be on the football team any longer, depending on the severity of the bullying. So you have to set those expectations. You have to be firm on those expectations. And it doesn't matter who in the program causes an issue or who in the program goes against the rules of the program, whether it's a superstar or the weakest player on the team, they all have to be treated the same. They all have to be treated equally in terms of discipline severity. Obviously, each individual situation can be different based on who they are just in life alone, like whether, they're having issues at home, issues at school, come from a bad home life or just having a hard time in life. Obviously, some of that stuff has to be taken into account. But at the end of the day, nobody gets off scot-free just because of who they are on the football team, okay? You need to create a safe and positive and rewarding environment. Yelling is old school and, for the most part, is not accepted anymore in today's culture. You need to have a place where players and athletes come in and they feel safe. They feel that they can be themselves, that they feel that they're not in jeopardy of being hurt. They're not in jeopardy of being bullied. They're not in jeopardy of being out of place. And how you do that is you make sure that everybody feels included. You make sure that everybody feels that they're being heard. You make sure that everybody feels that they're part of the team. You make sure that everybody feels that they have a role within the team, okay? Positive environment, rewarding environment. Positive environment. If somebody's doing something good, you need to let them know they're doing something good, okay? There's going to be a lot of talk about things that they need to correct or things that they need to focus on or things that they need to improve on. But the one thing that gets missed, and myself included, is that we don't positively reinforce the good things that they're doing, whether it's a tackle, a block, a catch, a heads-up play. Those things need to be reinforced in practice, in front of their teammates. You can also take them one-on-one and before practice and talk to them about what they're doing that's really adding value to the team. And that's gonna create a rewarding environment. If they're coming and they're feeling that they can be themselves and they're feeling that, as long as they're giving their best efforts and their willingness to learn and they're putting their best foot forward, that the coaches are taking notice of that, they're going to be feeling like they're in a safe and rewarding environment. You need to respect everybody on the team and everyone needs to feel included in the process. It doesn't matter. And we always tell everybody, it doesn't matter if you hate the person next to you or you don't like this person, you don't like that person. As long as you're within this football team, whether you're at a car wash, you're at baseball together, or you're in the dressing room together, you will respect each other because you're part of a family, you're part of a team. And nobody on this team is bigger than anybody else. So put your differences aside and grow up and be part of a team. And look, you don't even have to talk to each other, but you're part of a team and you're not going to bicker with each other. You're not going to fight with each other. You guys are going to be part of the greater good, and you guys are going to do that for the team, okay? Coaches need to be approachable, whether it's to talk about Call of Duty that they were playing before practice, or whether they want to come and talk to you about something personal or something serious that they need some advice on, or they need somebody that they can talk to that's not their parents or not their friends, someone that they can trust to provide them that advice. And also and be okay to come, if they're struggling with the playbook, or they're struggling with learning something, that they can come to you and know that, you're going to give them 110% support. You're not there to yell at them. You're not there to say, hey, you don't know the playbook, you can't play today, things like that. You need to really build that relationship with them. Coaches need to focus on the task at hand. Okay. I ban cell phone use from my football practices and my football games. You can have your cell phone on you. I understand that, most of us are volunteer coaches. And at the end of the day, you have a work obligation, or you might have a family emergency. But look, if your phone rings and it's an emergency, by all means, pick up the phone, but walk off the field to the sideline where you're not on the sideline. Make sure that you have somebody to run your drill for you. If you're partnered up, it makes it easier, and walk to the sideline, okay? And take care of your personal matter. I get it. Life happens. Football is not life and death, and there's things that are out of your control sometimes that you get a phone call for that you have to take, okay? And just make sure that coaches they know what they're doing when they're coaching their positions. Make sure they know that they know what they're talking about in the drills that they're coaching, okay? Players will respect that. Players will buy into that, and that will help create culture buy-in, okay? And then create some core values and preach them every day, okay? And have the coaches speak to the core values, and then have the players speak to the core values to their teammates, to their coaches, in front of everybody, so that everybody's up there and everybody understands that this is what we're about, this is who we are, and this is what we're going to focus on as our goals, as our philosophy for the football season. And hand in hand, you will see exponential growth as the season goes on. That attitudes will change, mindsets will change, and just the overall willingness to be part of a team will change. That is how you create the culture buy-in. You could do team builders as well. One of the things I like to do is what I call a fire run before the first game of the season. And what we usually do is we run about a mile or two from the football field to a location where we have a fire pit. And then we have usually a parent that meets us there. They've got hot dogs ready and chips ready, and also, pop and stuff like that. And everybody brings a lawn chair. We sit around the fire after we eat. And then what we do is everybody goes into the middle. They get right in front of the fire, and I've told them before they came that they had to have a piece of paper written down with an individual goal that they want to accomplish this season, and then a team goal that they want to accomplish to see what they're going to do to sacrifice and what they're going to do to add value to the team. Okay. And sometimes some players are really great. Some players, just don't know exactly yet what they want to say on it, but you always get players that come out and say, hey, as part of a team, I want to make all my blocks. That is actually a really good answer, because if you're a wide receiver, you may only get the ball 3 or 4 times a game. So guess what? The other 45 plays a game, you're blocking. So yes, that is a great thing. And then individual, they say, hey, individually, I want to be able to make sure that I know all my plays and I'm able to run all my routes at precise cuts and things like that. So that's the kind of thing. And then when they're done with that, they throw it into the fire, and that's their pack to the team for the year. And the coaches do that as well. The coaches will get up there and they'll talk about their team goal. They'll talk about their individual goal, and then they'll throw it in the fire. So you've had 30 players plus, 7, 8, 9 coaches all get up there and get vulnerable with each other and talk about some of the things that they want to accomplish individually and as a team this year. And I think that really bonds your team starting the season. And then as the season goes, each month you need to put cancel practice and have a team builder, have a team movie and pizza night, have a team fun game with parents night, have dodgeball night where the parents come out and the parents take on the players or something like that. That also builds teamwork, right? Anytime you get an opportunity to do anything as a team, utilize it as a team builder, utilize it as something that can grow the team. Even when you're doing film, teach them a lesson before or after you go through game film. Okay. And I think that's kind of how you build the culture buy-in. If they know that the coaches are having to buy in and having to do the things that they're having to do, then they will buy in. And the other thing too is that they need to know that the coaches are not above the team too. A lot of times coaches talk about nobody's above the team, but then 1 or 2 coaches, think they're above the team and they're able to do whatever and say whatever they want. But at the end of the day, if they're not held accountable, then the players aren't going to respect the coaches and they're not going to respect the culture that you're trying to create. So some of the things that we do is we have a team meeting before we even step on the field for the first practice. We usually do it through Zoom. It's usually about an hour long. We go through basically the coaching staff, what their responsibilities, what their roles are for. And then we go through our core values and our philosophy and our culture. Then we go through our offense and defensive systems, just real basic stuff. And then we talk about expectations for the season. So our philosophy and our culture, we have a mission statement. What is your mission? We want to build champions for life through football. And what champions for life through football means is we understand that today you might be a 12-year-old kid or a 13-year-old kid and you're playing football and you're having fun. But what are you going to get from this season? And we feel that football and life go hand in hand. The lessons that you learn in football can be translated to life because football is such an up and down game. You have highs, you have lows. It's really a big roller coaster. So at the end of the day, what can we teach them about football? What can we teach them about being a team and that they can utilize in their everyday life and on top of some of the things that they're going to learn on the field? Okay. We want to make better people long term, not better football players long term. I mean, that is obviously a goal of ours, is to create as much development within our program as possible. But at the end of the day, some of these kids are going to be done football in 2 or 3 years, 4 years. And what are they going to have from their football experience that they can fall back on when life gets tough, or remember some experience or things that were said back in their football time that they can take forward with them? Our vision is experience, development, and fun. We want every single player on the team to have a great experience, whether it's the superstar player or the weakest player on the team or a role player or the quarterback, linebacker, whatever. We want everybody to have a really good experience. And by having a really good experience means we want to put as much time in to them as we want to put as much time into each individual player as possible equally. Okay. And how you can do that is talk to your players before practice. A lot of times I see coaches talking to themselves while kids are throwing around balls and things like that. Go throw the ball with your kids before practice. Go ask them how their day was. Ask them, what are they doing on the weekend? Things like that. Believe it or not, just talking to them a little bit more than just talking to them during drills and things, their experience is actually going to be more rewarding than you expect. You know what? These kids, they want to come to football and they want to have a conversation other than football with you. They want to tell you about their game that they played before practice. And you know what? You might get it. You might build that relationship with them. They might be having problems in an area in their life and they might need help from an adult, but they can't go to their parents or they can't go to their principal or their teacher because they're worried about the trust level or they're worried about what's going to happen. But they can come to you as a coach because they look at you as somebody that cares about them, as somebody that's genuinely enriched in their development as a person. So just remember that, the experience. Look at the kids on the team. If the weakest player or the least athletic player on your team is having a great experience, then everybody else on your team probably is having a pretty good experience. So keep an eye on that, okay? Make sure that you guys are talking to players' development. Obviously, they're playing football and you want to develop them long-term, right? Again, most of these players probably aren't going past high school, but at the end of the day, if you're playing Pee-wee, you want to develop them for Bantam. If you're playing Bantam, you want to develop them for high school. And really, as a coach, you want to have drills and you want to know how to coach those drills, okay? You don't want to show up to the field and say, oh, well, we're going to run this drill today, but I don't really know what to tell you about it. So, and then make sure they're having fun. If they're having a great experience and they feel like they're getting better and they feel like they're developing and they feel like the coaches are putting time into them both personally and as football players, then they're going to be having a lot of fun and word of mouth will spread and your program will grow. Okay, definition of success kind of goes back to our mission statement about building champions through life. We want development both on and off the field. So the way we feel that the best way to provide development off the field is having core values. And the core values philosophy that we have is called the FEAT philosophy, which is family, effort, attitude, and toughness. And what we utilize these core values for is we praise these core values from the first time we meet them in our first team meeting to the last day of the season, whether it's a playoff game or it's our send-off party. We talk about these core values. Okay. We practice 3 nights a week. and we have a game on Saturday or Sunday. So we utilize these 4 things over 4 days. Monday is usually toughness. Tuesday or Wednesday is usually attitude, and then Thursday's effort, and then a game day's family. And why we and what toughness is mental, physical, and emotional toughness. Okay, football is a game that's going to tug at your heartstrings. It's a game that's going to be mentally demanding, and at times it's going to be a struggle for you on a hot day or a cold day to mentally be able to overcome that. And then physical, it is a contact sport. It is a violent sport. You're going to get hurt. You're going to get hit. Having an understanding what an injury is versus a boo-boo. And we teach these kids that you need to understand that, being physically tough, like if you're halfway through the season, if you're not banged up and you're not tired, then you probably haven't been playing hard enough. And the toughness is, yeah, it's easy to take a practice off, but if you're taking a practice off, you're letting your teammates down. So physically, you have to push yourself, and mentally, you have to get over that hurdle to push yourself past that physical barrier, and emotionally too, probably as well, because you're probably torn inside on which way to go, right? So we really preach toughness. We really talk about being physically and mentally tough. We talk about, hey, you know what? Things aren't always going to go our way, but you got to mentally continue to be positive, okay? And that ties into attitude, okay? Having a positive attitude, understanding that win or lose, at the end of the day, it's a game. And sometimes, you know what? You might miss a tackle, you might drop a ball, you might throw an interception, but you got to come back to the sideline with a positive attitude. You cannot live in the past. You cannot dwell on what happened on the last play. The most important play is the next play. And you just got to have that attitude. Even if you're having a losing season, you're not having a lot of fun in terms of wins and losses. You need to be positive and understand that this is a process. And maybe this year is a learning year. Maybe you got a young squad. Maybe you have, some key injuries. Maybe, just some things that are out of your control. So continue to have that positive attitude, effort. And we preach this, that you don't have to have talent to be a good football player. A lot of the things that are going to allow you to start, or a lot of things that are going to allow you to exceed, are done before even the play even starts. One, knowing your playbook and your assignment, right? Putting as much effort as you can into your tackling drills, your blocking drills, your individual drills, your scrimmage time, knowing how a defense or an offense lines up, understanding that your stance, how that has to be, what your first step has to be, things like that, right? Obviously, the execution piece sometimes can be more based on talent, but if your technique is proper and you've put as much time and preparation into understanding your technique and your assignments and your alignments and your stance and your recognition of an offense or defense, etc., you're 75% there, and you probably put yourself in a good position to make a play and execute properly. Okay, and then family is always what we preach on game day, because at the end of the day, not one player is going to win us a football game. It's going to take an entire team. It's going to take the coaches working together as a unit on the sidelines, making adjustments, making sure that everybody's getting their time on the field when they're supposed to be on, making sure everybody who's supposed to be on special teams is on, making sure that, we've got all of the first aid gear and things like that on the sideline. And then the players, like running backs, aren't going anywhere without blocking. Slot backs aren't going anywhere without blocking. Quarterbacks aren't going to be able to throw a pass without blocking. Linemen, receivers without running their proper routes, the linemen won't be able to make blocks. If receivers decides to ad hoc a route, well, you're hurting your linemen because they can't pass block for 8 or 9 seconds because you decide to go off path, right? And you win and lose as a team. You're there. If you see a teammate that's down, you see a teammate that's not feeling good, pick them up, man. We're a family, okay? Make sure they understand that you got their back and that, you know what, this is just a game. At the end of the day, we're going to be back together on Monday night. We're going to be having fun, laughing and giggling and things like that. So that's kind of how you build a philosophy into your program. And how we do this, on Monday night before practice, when the season starts, we have coaches talk about toughness on Monday nights, okay? Probably for the first week or two. We'll have maybe 1 or 2 coaches a night talk about what does toughness mean to you, okay? And they'll give an example of what toughness means to them as coaches, okay? And then Tuesday nights will be attitude. And again, we'll have a couple coaches talk about what attitude means to them, effort, and then family. On game day, we'll have coaches. And then as the season goes on, we start asking kids before practice, hey, who wants to talk about toughness tonight? And the first couple practices, you'll probably get one or two kids that raise their hand. Then they'll come up, they'll talk about toughness. And then the next night we'll say, who wants to talk about attitude? Who wants to talk about effort? Who wants to talk about family on game day? And we just continually, by the end of the season, everybody's talked about every single core value that we have. And by the end of the season, they aren't shy. They aren't up there, trying to just push through it. They've got some really good ideas. They've learned from coaches talking, they've learned from players talking, and maybe they've learned from their parents, because we really emphasize the core values with the parents so that they understand that we are trying to teach these kids good football things, but also really good things to teach them about life and things about being good people. So that's kind of how we do it. Again, if anybody wants to learn more, or anybody has any questions or wants to reach out, mfqfootball@gmail.com. And please subscribe to this channel, because the more subscribers we get, the more things we're going to be able to do. Again, appreciate your support, and I hope you guys enjoyed this topic today.